We love finding the next great guest. But now we want to hear from you. What's resonating? What should we dig into next?
Send us an email at hello@abracigroup.com. That's hello@abracigroup.com. Or even better, a voice note. Keep it to 30 seconds. We can't wait to hear what's on your mind and to share it with our listeners.
It was not fun to go to work every day. And as a result of those experiences in a locker room where people are actively yelling, actively telling you to get out, you learn how to stand your ground, how to speak up, but more importantly, how to make the most of whatever interaction you actually get with somebody.
If there's one thing you can say about Jen Mueller, it's that she doesn't back down. An Emmy-winning producer and sports broadcaster, Jen has been a sidelines reporter with the Seattle Seahawks for over 17 years.
But to get to the Seahawks, Jen had to push past significant gender barriers at a time when sports journalism wasn't a welcome place for women. Now she uses what she's learned in the locker room to help people communicate effectively when every second counts.
When you're writing for TV and radio, our conversations are measured in seconds, not minutes.
Today, we're hearing Jen's lessons on how to use your time to speak up and break out, even if that box seems indestructible. You're listening to The Breakout, a show about pushing back against expectations, against fear, and against that little voice telling you to stay small. I'm Dr. Carrie Ulrich.
And I'm Kelly Gunther. For over 25 years, Carrie and I have helped people make bold leaps or just take that first, small, powerful step. On The Breakout, we show you that anyone can push back.
Because that's how we find our way forward. Welcome, Jen. So we love to ask this question first. So in one sentence, what have you broken out of?
I have broken out of the idea that women don't belong in locker rooms and that I need permission to speak up.
Oh, I love that. I love you don't need permission to speak up. What do you help others break out of?
Their own stories and giving them a platform to talk about who they are and what they've done. There's too many people that are waiting for acknowledgement from somebody else, and that feels really good, but we have to have ways to talk about our accomplishments, our successes, and what we're proud of, and that is one of the things that I help people do.
Oh, Jen, do you mainly help women on it? When you say we, do you find it more so that you're helping women with this, or do you help men and women equally?
I think women tend to lean into this message a little bit more. And it goes back to, I thought I needed permission to speak up. Now, part of that is how I got into sports in the first place and the advice that I was given. But there's also this idea that if we talk about ourselves, we're bragging or that nobody wants to hear it. And the truth is, nobody knows what we're doing behind the scenes. Nobody is qualified to talk about us like we are. And we see this in sports all the time with athletes. And so drawing those parallels between, you don't think your favorite athlete is bragging when they talk about the home run that they hit or the touchdown that they caught. So how about if we look at this in a different way?
I love that comparison of when an athlete says, I won the tennis match. I did really well. We don't say, oh man, I can't believe you're bragging like that.
And we would actually go so far as to say if they did a post-match, a post-game, a post-round interview, if they tried to tell me that they didn't do anything to contribute to the win, we would get on them for that, right? We would say, Are you kidding me? You scored 42 points. Are you kidding me? You threw a perfect game. Like, now you're just lying to my face, right? Like, we actually would get offended in the other direction.
So true.
But we don't see that in ourselves.
Yeah. So you touched on sports. You have this incredible career. So you've been 17 years with the Seattle Seahawks. You have an Emmy. You've worked with some of the biggest names in sports, but none of that came easy. And if listeners could tell, Jen's a female. So tell us about what it was like to be a woman breaking into sports journalism back in the 90s.
Yeah, we were allowed to do sports, is how I put it, but we were not supported or encouraged. So when I went to school, knowing that I wanted a broadcasting degree and knowing that sports was always a passion and a love of mine, they were like, okay, you can try it, but I would have a backup plan, and I wouldn't plan to have a career in it. I would just plan for it to be a job for a year or two, and then you can go on and do what you're really going to do with your life, because nobody really knew how it was going to turn out. And as a result, the advice that I got early on was really terrible advice. It was things like, make sure that nobody knows who you are, that nobody recognizes that you're a woman. It's best if you don't say anything. It's best if you stand in the corner. It's best if you don't create waves. It'd be really good for all of us involved if nobody knew you were here, which is really tough when you were sent into a locker room to get an interview.
Right.
It's tough to do your job. I also understand why that advice was given, because nobody knew how to navigate these waters. It was not a friendly place to be. I worked with some awesome people who turned out to be great mentors to me. It was not fun to go to work every day. And as a result of those experiences in a locker room where people are actively yelling, actively telling you to get out, you learn how to stand your ground, how to speak up, but more importantly, how to make the most of whatever interaction you actually get with somebody.
Yeah, it was so meaningful when you said you were allowed to be there. And I think a lot of women, a lot of people of color, a lot of different types of folks who weren't in the majority were kind of allowed to be in that boardroom. And they kind of went, well, that's nice. There's a female, but we're not really supporting you, and we're not really going to make it the best environment for you to succeed. And so, Jen, we can tell you're on the other end of that and you've been successful, but you were so tenacious. And how did you start off with the Seahawks? We know that one of your early strategies was you showed up at the training center every day, even though you're supposed to be kind of invisible, paint yourself like bricks, I guess, and just fall into the bricks in the back.
Yeah. So my career actually started behind the scenes. I knew that I wanted a chance to be on air, but the first jobs that I got were behind the scenes. So I was a producer. I would write the sportscasts for my anchors, and I did about 7 years of that. The thing that job did, in addition to spark some creativity, and it gave me access to press credentials. Now, football, growing up in Texas, football is the biggest thing. And in college, I became a high school football official. So I did that for 10 years to try to differentiate myself from anybody else who wanted to do this job. My former colleague was the sideline reporter for the Seahawks. And until I saw her do that, I'm like, I didn't even know that this was an option. So I used my credentials, which was an appropriate thing to do, to show up to Seahawks practices and press conferences. And I would tell the folks there, that the person that I now report to, if that job ever comes open, I would love the chance to audition to be the sideline reporter. And he would say, okay, yep, we'll keep you in mind. And I did that, and I showed up everywhere they looked for 6 years. So I went to training camp, I went to every practice, I went to every game, not interfering with my actual job responsibilities, but in addition to, and every year I would say the same thing. If this job ever comes open, I'd love to be able to audition for it. 6 years later, the job came open. And by that point in time, I think everybody probably thought I already worked for the organization anyway because they saw me. But it really taught me the power of showing up consistently. It wasn't that I had to have all these big conversations with people. I just needed to show up so that they got used to seeing me in the space, so that I could get used to seeing them. That audition came, I knew everything about that team. I knew the coaching staff, I knew the history, I knew why certain things were important. It wasn't really like an audition to me, and it was a piece of cake in that regard. There were times during that 6 years I had no idea if it was going to pay off, but it's definitely given me the confidence to know that strategy works so that I can use it in other areas.
Jen, so 6 years, there has to be some times where you thought, why am I doing this? And also, what is in you to be that tenacious for 6 years? I mean, that is, girl, that's a lot of tenacity. That's a lot of grit and whatever word you want to call it, but damn, that's a lot to keep going 6 years, where some people must have been like, you still here?
Yeah, well, and the Seahawks are awesome to work with. Like, the Seahawks are great. I still love being around the organization. I do love football, right? So anytime you're going to do something like this, you have to love it because it's in you. And I think people miss this sometimes. When I was officiating, people would ask, do you think that there should be more women officiating football? And my response has always been the same. Only if they want to.
Yes.
You can't do this to prove somebody else wrong. It has to be because you truly believe in yourself or want to do it. The other part about me is I am just as competitive as the athletes that I cover. And if you give me just the smallest opening, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to believe that good things happen the next day that I show up.
I love it. And you make that point too of just, you have to love it. And when you love it and when you're passionate about it, it does radiate. And now I'm going to sound a little woo-woo, but like things start to come to you, right? And to your point, it's not just about being there in that space. It's being there because you love it and you have a passion for it and you truly believe in it.
Well, it really is the energy that you bring to the work that you're doing. And I might sound a little woo-woo too, but when you are in a locker room, you feel it.
Yeah.
You feel all of it. You feel the highs, you feel the lows, you feel when people are guarded. I mean, there are times where I will get out of a locker room and just be emotionally spent. And it's not because I had a tough game.
Right.
It's because you're feeling everybody else. And so the energy that you bring absolutely affects the people around you, how they view you, and the opportunities they're going to give you.
Yep. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that makes you so good at your job too, is because you do pick up those emotions and you can feel it. So when you report on it, I can really feel it through you, right? I was like, ooh, that was a rough game. I can tell with Jen's energy and the way she's speaking about it.
And that was one of the things that they told me not to do when I first got into the industry. You weren't supposed to care. You weren't supposed to show any sort of emotion towards the people that you worked with. I care very deeply about people in general. I care very much about the human being that's standing in front of me. And when I finally realized that that was part of the secret sauce, was me just caring about the people that I work with, that's a huge differentiator in building relationships and in having those tough conversations after some of those games.
100%. And Kelly and I talk about this a lot, especially in business. Women have been told for such a long time, don't show any emotion. Yep. Don't be upset. Don't care. Like, you shouldn't care. You shouldn't be upset about things. We're like, but you know what employees want to hear? That you care about them.
Care.
What I really appreciate about Jen as well and her discussion is there's sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, there often is a feeling, the environment that women should be smaller and that women should not brag or be competitive or say things about themselves. And Jen did it in a completely male-dominated field. Mm-hmm. And that's super impressive.
She never backed down. I mean, she never, even if she maybe questioned herself, she had the end goal in mind of what she wanted to be able to do and achieve. And she never lost sight of what it was that she wanted for herself. And so when you are passionate, it's like breathing to you. You're willing to do whatever it takes to get to that end goal. And for her, it meant the Seattle Seahawks. That was the penultimate, thing that was going to keep her going.
Jen, when those days of the 6 years when you were grinding it out and showing up and being consistent, how did you kind of talk yourself up and go, okay, I got this one. I'm going to do it. Like, how did you push through?
It was always believing that something good was going to happen the next day. I knew I wasn't going to get where I wanted to be by sitting in the sports pit, which is what we called it, right? It was the sports pit. That's where we all worked. It was in the basement of the TV station, and there was nothing wrong with it, and I loved it, and I loved the people that I worked with. But I wasn't going to end up on the Seahawks sidelines by sitting in that room. I wasn't going to end up on the Seahawks sidelines by sitting at home. And if I was fortunate enough to have access, I was going to use that. So when we're looking for the validation, it's great if it comes in a big way. It's great when they give you the job or the promotion or whatever it is that you've asked for. But the small validation of just getting a hi or a hello when you walk in the door, that's a big deal. And so to this day, when I walk into a locker room or clubhouse, I'm looking for 5 hellos. That is my measure of success. If I can get 5 hellos, I feel great that day. And part of that is because when you don't really have the job and you're trying to figure it out and you just need your little boost of confidence, that's what I could come up with.
I love it. And I love those little things too, that you're like, this is my dream. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. I got 4 hellos today. I'm going to get 5 hellos. It's again, the little stuff too. And you went through it because it wasn't that I have to get the job tomorrow. It was, I have to show up. I have to be consistent. I'm going to get some more hellos. So I love that. And you went from being in the sports pit. I just love saying that, by the way. It sounds like a great place, and I hope it has a slight odor to it, Jen. I don't know if it does.
Had a unique odor.
Okay.
There was a lot of old boxes of tape back there, like old school recordings. So there was like some mustiness from that.
For sure.
Yeah. Whatever leftover pizza was on. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I would like to visit that first when we visit you in Seattle. So you went from sports pit to now, excuse me, ma'am, you have a Super Bowl ring.
I do.
So tell me about that journey. When did that happen and what did that feel like?
So being part of the team broadcast means that I travel with the team. I stay at their hotels. I am on their sidelines every game. And the year that we won the Super Bowl, they decide as an organization and franchise how many people are going to be getting a ring. And our owner at the time was Paul Allen, and he was a very gracious man. He has since passed away. He was very gracious, and he extended that to the members of our radio broadcast team. So I do, in fact, have a ring with my name on it, and that is my reminder that 6 years paid off in ways that I could never have imagined.
What a reminder. Now, where do you put that ring? Do you wear it out? It looks very heavy.
It's very heavy. It's not practical for everyday use.
Okay.
But I will bring it out on special occasions. This is the 50th season of the Seahawks. We're celebrating the 50th season. So I'm sure that there will be a few events that I get a chance to wear that to. It is very sparkly. It's made by Tiffany. So when I get it cleaned, I actually take it to Tiffany and they will clean my ring for me.
Come on now. That's like,
cool.
That is something great just to pull out once in a while.
Every once in a
Especially
while.
when people are acting like fools. You work so hard and you got it. I love it. We'll get back to the interview after this quick break. You know those rules you follow every day? The ones about what you should do, who you should be, and how your life should look?
Yeah, we've lived by those too, until we broke out of them. And here's what we know. Those rules, they're not your truth. They're someone else's expectations.
So let's change the story. Come find us at abrachigroup.com. We'll help you build a life that actually fits you. Kelly, I know you love Jen already as much as I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just your presence, and you're right. The energy that you bring does absolutely translate to the people that are around you. So there's so many lessons that I'm kind of picking up as you're talking. You've written 3 books, that have a connection to sports and your passion for it, and the connection to business communication, which is obviously really important as well. So you teach many courses, you give talks, and I can see why you're a fantastic keynote speaker. What are, would you say, the top 3 mistakes that people make when it comes to communicating in business?
Number 1, we accept any answer as the answer. So we'll ask a question and we just take for granted that somebody's going to answer us, right? Whether it was the right question, the real answer, whether it gets us to where we need to be quickly, we're not strategic and intentional enough when we ask questions and when we get answers from people. So that would be number 1. Number 2, it is always the things that we leave unsaid that lead to miscommunication. We know what's happening in our own minds. We forget that you are not in my head. I think you are, and I wish you were. But even when we say something like, call me when you get a chance, I know it's not a bad thing. I know we're just going to do podcast prep together. But that trigger takes people out of the moment. It creates all this drama and confusion when all you had to do was finish the sentence. Call me when you get a chance so we can talk about our podcast that's coming up. right? And we see that all the time. It's things like, let me know what you think about this. Okay, I'm never going to let you know what I think about this because it's way too much work for me. What you actually meant to say was, let me know what you think about the format I used on the PowerPoints. That's what you really meant, right? You don't want me to critique 25 different things. So it's things like that. And then it is definitely not advocating for yourself in small ways every single day. There's super easy ways to do that. We tend to wait for a performance review. We wait for a meeting with the client. All of those are important, but you put a lot of pressure on one conversation. We should be finding small ways to do that during the course of the day.
Absolutely. And I think we expect too that people are going to remember what we're doing throughout the year, which is, I can't remember what I did yesterday. So
exactly right. But if we get, again, strategic and intentional. So I keep saying things like that because when you're writing for TV and radio, our conversations are measured in seconds, not minutes. If you tell me that I'm going to be interviewing somebody, it probably takes 90 seconds. In your mind, when you're watching on TV, it feels like it's a lot longer. In my mind, I'm counting down the seconds because I know that I get 3 questions. It's going to take me 90 seconds to do that. If we are strategic and intentional about all of these little interactions, our response to the question, how are you, turns into the best way to advocate for yourself. Mm-hmm. That's the number one strategy that I teach in delivering a success statement right there, so that it just becomes a little drip campaign. When people ask, how are you? We're going to go one sentence past, I'm good or I'm great, and say why. That's it.
Amazing. What's an example?
Yep. So if you were to ask me today, how are you? It's okay to say good, great, fantastic, but we've got to keep going with that. It's been a fantastic day. My workout was awesome, and the podcast that I taped was really fun. So what we've just done on that is I gave you 2 possible follow-up opportunities. Mm-hmm. I told you that I'm on a podcast. To me, that's a success. I love talking to you gals, right? We get to talk about some really impactful things. I opened up a conversation where you could ask me, what podcast? What were you talking about? How often do you do that? Why were you there? So the conversation could go in that direction, or I could talk about, I'm proud that I gutted through a really tough workout. I don't care which one you pick, but I've just made that conversation really easy and obvious. So now I can build a relationship. Now I can advocate and tell you what I'm doing. And I create a drip campaign because the next time you come back to me, I might say, I just booked my tickets to give a keynote in Chicago. Cannot wait for that audience, right? And so I'm doing it through those little interactions.
I should do that with more when people are saying how I'm doing. Like, I really love that. I did this and that.
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
It stretches your assertive skills as well.
It sure does.
For folks who aren't overly assertive or don't like to share a lot, it really does put just a little bit of pressure, a little bit of competition on yourself of like, can I add one sentence today? Can I add one sentence? And it is your little brag book too. So then people start to, oh, Kelly does this. Oh yeah. Because you're right. It's so easy to say, oh, I'm fine. Thanks. Mm-hmm. And I love that little nugget. That's a great one.
100%. I think it's important. I think sometimes we underestimate just how much we actually do in a day anyway.
Yes.
Right? So when you can, celebrate those wins, it just builds your confidence naturally. Jen, a lot of women in particular struggle with things like imposter syndrome and not feeling good enough and all of the limiting beliefs that we place on ourselves or others place on us. What would you say to someone who is struggling in her 6-year commitment to trying to finally get on the Seattle Seahawks sideline? What would you say to someone who's struggling with those feelings of imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough?
I would say that everybody is going to go through that at some point in time. Mm-hmm. Even when you are established. I know that that doesn't feel good in the moment, but I do a lot of journaling. And that's a habit that I've picked up in the last 5 or 6 years that makes a big difference. And also just proving to myself that I can do hard things or challenging things that I didn't think were possible. And I do that through workouts. I do that through, can I empty the dishwasher in 60 seconds? Now, this feels ridiculous, but what you are training your brain to do is to find the little success. Or if you are concerned about the change at work, right? So imposter syndrome comes up when something changes a lot, right? Like that tends to be where we feel that. Your title, your responsibility, the project that you're working on. There are so many different ways that you can prove that you can change. We just overlook them. If you go out for a walk on a regular basis, so I do this, I go out for a walk, I just kind of walk my neighborhood. It's kind of like a mindless thing in the morning. Try walking the opposite direction. Instead of turning left, turn right. It will feel entirely different, and it's proof that you can change. And so it's all of these little things. And part of this is from being around athletes for so long. You don't get to back out of doing something because the game is on the schedule. You don't get to put this off. You are on a routine, you are on a schedule. And so watching them play these little mind games with themselves, right? I stacked the wins here, which is exactly how they will talk. I stacked all these wins at practice. I can do this in a game. I stacked all these reps in the weight room. I can make this work when I need to.
When you were talking, Jen, I just thought of how deliciously competitive you are. And that just phrase, deliciously competitive, the small things, the dishwasher 60 seconds. And I thought, oftentimes as females, especially, we're told not to be overly competitive. It's a little more community. And so that competitive is not as lauded as it could be. And I just thought, you're such a great role model for that. And it's not taking anyone else down. It is competitive within yourself. And it's delicious. That's my new term for the day. Deliciously competitive with Jen. Yeah.
I love that.
I love it.
I love that. And you're right. It does come from being around athletes. And I think what people misunderstand about the competition is they think it's against somebody else.
Right.
It is always against yourself. In fact, if you are competing to the highest level in a football locker room, you are also competing to be the best mentor you can be, because there is going to be a point in time where your backup has to come in, right? Yep. So you are competing to be the best teammate, the best mentor, and the best you. And that's where the focus should be. It's not about taking down anybody else, just like you said, right? How can I show up and be the best version and continue to get better?
Fantastic. It's not something that's really hard. Change, go left instead of right, or go right instead of left, whatever you do. I mean, it's something that's so tangible that does help you see you are capable of so much more than maybe what you think you are.
And that's also why we need to have our small wins. That's why you need the hello. If I walk into a locker room or a clubhouse, there are days that I don't feel like talking for whatever reason, right? And this is really unheard of because I am the person that talks, right? But if I walk in and I, for whatever reason, feel overwhelmed, not prepared, not capable of doing the interviews, I need those small wins. I need a couple of guys to come up and say, "Hi, Jen." And then I'm like, okay, I belong here. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. Okay, I stacked a couple of those. Let's try something that's a little harder today.
Fantastic. In addition to everything that you've described that you do and all your responsibilities, you also have included a very fun YouTube cooking show. It's called I Cook, You Measure. If there is one takeaway, Jen, about what cooking teaches us about high-performing athletes and even maybe high-performing teams in general, what would you say it is?
I would say it's that we are all human and that we all see the outcome differently. So there are some guys that follow a recipe to a T that are very comfortable doing it. There are other guys who don't know how to use a can opener and they have to be talked through the process, but they're still willing to try. They can see the final result differently. They just need some help along the way. Ultimately, we get to where we want to go. We get to a great meal at the end of that. But along the way, there's different techniques that guys use. There's different comfort level. There's sometimes, and this is kind of crazy, the guys who get intimidated because they truly don't know the difference between a teaspoon and a tablespoon. It's not a deal breaker in life. I mean, it might change the seasoning a little bit, right? But to watch, everybody's got vulnerabilities and they get to the end in a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. It's just all of these analogies for how you can get something done and how you can accomplish your goals and how you can even just reframe your mindset to look at something differently and approach it from a different perspective. It's so helpful. In the spirit of true post-game sideline reporting, Jen, we thought we'd do some rapid fire questions. We've never done this before, so this is this is a first.
Just for you.
So,
okay.
Amazing.
Oof. Yeah.
All
Ready?
right, deep breaths.
90 seconds. 90 seconds.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Go,
You
Cal.
want true rapid fire?
Uh-oh.
True rapid fire, right?
Uh-oh.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can be flexible, but yes, whatever feels good for you.
Okay.
So what would you say is the best way to bounce back after you've had a tough loss at work?
Get back and do it the next day or the next hour. Take your next opportunity and get right back to it.
How do you quiet the noise when you're the only woman or man or maybe culturally diverse person in the room or on the field?
I take a deep breath. I put my hand over my heart to calm just my nervous system in general. I square my shoulders and I will actually say to myself, you are a badass. Go out there and do it.
Yes.
What is your go-to move when you feel underestimated?
To be assertive in the conversation, whatever that looks like. I will make sure that you know I was part of that conversation.
How do you train for confidence like an athlete trains for game day?
I do really challenging workouts where I don't have to do what the instructor says that I am supposed to do, but when I do it and I exceed that, I know that I can tough things out.
What's your advice for women who are waiting on the sidelines for their shot?
Nobody's ever going to come and give you permission. Find the small ways to speak up. You're never going to find your voice unless you use it.
And finally, Jen, last but not least, you're working with someone who's stuck and they just want to break out. What would you tell them?
Your big breakout comes from small wins. When you look back and you count up your wins in a day, an hour, a week, 6 years, 20 years, you will realize just how much of an impact you made and just how much those little steps contributed to a big, big breakout.
Yay.
I can't even imagine ending on a better note than that. Thank you so much for your advice, your wisdom, and just being the badass professional that you are, for having the perseverance, for being tenacious when I'm sure you had moments of like, what is the point of this? Should I continue doing this? Or people, I'm sure, probably asked you that question like 6 years, Jen. And look at the proof is in the pudding. Like you are who you are, and it's a pleasure to know you.
Thank you very much. It's been a blast.
Let's trademark Deliciously Competitive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Let's make
could
some
we
money
put
off of
that
that
on?
Well, you have the cooking show.
I know. I do think there's some merch coming.
Yeah.
There's definitely Deliciously Competitive.
I could see a spatula with that on the handle.
Yeah, there you go. Whole cooking line.
And I don't like cooking at all. Just shows like you can do this. It's a bit of an inspirational message to me.
All right, Jen. We'll get Kelly in the kitchen.
Amazing, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. You're amazing.
Yes, such an inspiration.
You're welcome.
That's Jen Mueller, award-winning, ceiling-smashing, and deliciously competitive communications expert. And this is The Breakout.
If you love the show, do us a favor. Follow, rate, review. You know, all the podcast things.
Or better yet, share an episode with someone who needs a nudge. It helps The Breakout grow, and it just might help your friend too. I'm Kelly Gunther.
And I'm Dr. Carrie Ulrich. Thank you so much for listening. See you soon.